Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the casting table here on Apocalypse Movies. This is our fan casting show where we take characters, fictional, non-fictional, and fan cast them. It's very self-explanatory. We brought this back this year, and we're very, very excited to do so. We had 2 episodes in January. Check those out. We did Cyclops and Zatanna, and we are stepping away from DC and Marvel in February with 2 characters that one in particular who has been in the news recently, as you can see right below us, Mr. James Bond. A new Bond will be cast very, very soon. So we're going to take the time today to fan cast our version of James Bond, who we want to see take up the mantle of 007 next. As you can see, I got Jacob Bartley and Brian Avlicina with me today. Jacob, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. I've been looking forward to this episode. Look, James Bond is somebody that people are always trying to cast. Even when we have a James Bond, how long have we heard, that people casting the next James Bond, people wanting Idris Elba to be the next James Bond? Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen at this point. But just it's like there's only certain characters like that, right? There's Superman, Batman, James Bond, Spider-Man maybe has become that.
Yeah.
But where we have this ongoing, there's always going to be a new generation's James Bond, so I'm excited to cast it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where they go with the franchise next after Daniel Craig. Brian, how about you?
Doing good. Excited to throw some names in the pool, see what floats and sinks. Yeah, I'm just ready to get going.
All right. There's no parameters for this fan casting, by the way, if you're watching, as far as like putting an age limit on it or even gender. We didn't do any of that. We just made decisions on our own who we would like to see play this character next in the version that we think the franchise should go. So this is going to be interesting because none of us talk beforehand about how all this goes. This is all surprising here. We have no idea who everybody is going to reveal. So I'm going to go back to Jacob. I'm going to let Jacob start this off. Jacob, and by the way, we're going to go number 1 pick to get those out of the way, and then we'll go 2. And then if we have any honorable mentions, we can do that. So who is the number 1 option that you want to see play 007 James Bond?
All right. So don't worry. It's not Doc Ray Montgomery. All right. It's not him. But young James Bond.
He's English too, isn't he?
No, he's Australian. He's Australian.
Okay, never mind.
But so that goes into, I only have 1 qualification for James Bond. Look, I don't care about race. I don't care about age. I don't care about, they have to be somewhat in shape, right? If he's going to be running on top of trains and
you're an agent. You're a secret
exactly.
agent.
So they have to be somewhat in shape.
Yeah,
but my only qualification is they must be British. That's look. James Bond to the Brits is like Captain America to Americans. Like, it always has to be an American actor playing Captain America. It just has to be. And it always has to be a British actor playing James Bond, in my opinion. I'm not saying everybody has to agree with that. So my choices are all British. And my number 1 choice is a guy that I'm a huge fan of, and his name is Tom Ellis. He plays Lucifer on the show Lucifer. Lucifer is over now. It's done. It's been there. It's done. It was a great show. Tom Ellis is an amazing actor. He brings, there's certain elements to the Bond character. There's different types of Bonds. There's your Roger Moore, your Pierce Brosnan type Bond. And then there's more of like, I feel like Daniel Craig is a more gritty James Bond. I think Tom Ellis is going to fit more with the Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan type of James Bond. He's going to fit the more suave, the more ladies man. If you've watched the show Lucifer, that's exactly kind of how he is on the show. So if they want to kind of hearken a little bit back to that, but have it be a little bit more serious than those movies were, I think Tom Ellis would do a great job. Now, look, your guys' reaction, you guys laugh about it, but like, I think he's kind of been typecast.
I'm laughing because how did I not see this coming from a mile away?
Yeah. I think maybe he's going to face a little trouble of people not being able to see him outside of Lucifer because he's so connected to that character. And honestly, I haven't seen him in anything else, but I've watched that series all the way through, and I think he'd do a good job. Look, he's 6'3". He's a big dude. Though he's kind of scrawny. He could put on a little bit of muscle, I think.
Anybody can lift weights though
for this role. And look, they're going if he's the one who gets chosen, it would be in the same vein of I don't know how old Daniel Craig was when he started playing Bond. Was he late 30s, early 40s?
He was probably mid 30s.
Yeah. So look, Tom Ellis is 44. He doesn't look old, so I think he could play him for 10 years. So it's my number one choice.
Interesting choice. Like Brian said, I mean, we get in this pattern with Jacob where it's almost like for us on the inside, we're like, oh my God, that is such a Jacob choice. That is like prototypical Jacob choice, which is totally fine. But you find a way to like place these people that you love in these roles. And that's why we always make the Doc Ray Montgomery joke because we fan-crafted so many characters that fit the mold for Doc Ray Montgomery for so long.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, I haven't seen him in anything. I didn't watch Lucifer, so I can't really say
Yes, you have.
Well, I know they did the crossover. I know he did.
Oh, yeah.
He was in it for like 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
But yeah, I mean, so I can't say much. I don't have much to go off of or anything really. But I mean, he looks like he can play the role. So
yeah. Definitely.
Again, how did I not see this coming?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Brian, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go next.
By all means.
I'm going to go next for my number one. I think it's fair to say that I'm the biggest Bond fan out of the five of us.
Is it?
You and Keith?
Yeah,
Keith is a huge Bond fan.
Yeah, maybe Keith.
But no one else
loves this franchise. And I
don't know. I'm a wicked GoldenEye player.
Wow.
So.
No, Brian.
I think that this franchise... So look, I think Daniel Craig is the greatest Bond ever, period. Casino Royale is my favorite Bond movie. It's one of my favorite Bond movies of all time. But I would really love to see the franchise kind of go in a little bit of a different direction. I'm not saying like the Tom Holland effect where you go super young and you plan for the future, but a little bit younger than what we get with typical Bonds, right? Like Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, Sean Connery. They were all a little bit older when they first started playing the character. And they played him for a long time, but I want someone who's a little bit of a younger. You kind of see them as like if they get in this athletic moment or this action scene, it makes sense, right? Which is why I'm going with someone who I think doesn't get enough credit in this world. And he started on a TV show that I tried to make everyone watch. It was a 6-episode limited series, and I am going with Mr. Richard Madden.
Nice.
Richard Madden is my number one choice to play James Bond. I don't think we see him enough in this world. Obviously, he was in Eternals. He was in a Marvel movie. I get it. He did his Game of Thrones. That's what most people will recognize him from. But outside of that, you don't really see him. And again, if you have not watched Bodyguard on Netflix, go watch Bodyguard. It's 6 episodes of him as a secret British agent in a very high octane scenario. So, yeah, I think he would be fantastic. He's a little shorter than I would hope Bond would be, but that doesn't mean you can't do anything on screen. Like that's easy to fix. And he fits that mold of being a little on the younger side, or at least looking like it, where he can play the character for a long time. I would love to see him as Bond. I think he'd be a perfect choice.
That's a great choice. So when I was looking through British actors when I was trying to make my choice, and I saw him, like I wasn't going to choose him, but I thought, oh, he'd be a great Bond. I haven't seen The Bodyguard, but everybody, including you, Jake, have told me it's amazing. But yes, Richard Madden, I've liked him in everything I've seen him in. I mean, Game of Thrones, Eternals, little things here and there. And he looks like James Bond. Like any type of if you've seen like drawings of James Bond, like comics of James Bond, video games where they don't model him off an actor, like he kind of looks like James Bond. So how you imagine James Bond would look. And he's a fantastic actor. So I'd be all for it. All for it.
It's an interesting choice.
Why do you say that, Brian?
No, it's funny. I just looked it up. Richard Madden, Daniel Craig, same height. 5'10".
Are they really?
They're both 5'10". Yep.
All for it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. While you have it up, Jacob, what's his age, Richard Madden?
I just closed out of it, but I had it right here. Google search. He's 36. So that kind of goes with what you're saying. Like, see, like a guy who's 44, I give him 10 years at the most. A guy who's 36, maybe 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Craig played the character for almost 15 years. So
yeah,
um,
another 15 years would be that'd be perfect.
And we got 5 movies out of him in 15 years. So obviously you're casting someone, James Bond, you don't cast someone just to play 1 or 2 movies. Like it's always 4, 5, 6 movies for this character.
Especially nowadays. Like I think what did Brosnan do 2 or 3? I think he did 2.
Brosnan did 4.
Did he do 4? Oh wow, he did 4. Okay. Yeah, I mean I guess they're always looking for there was an actor who didn't do a lot, right?
It is
the one that wasn't British. He's Australian. David
was the one after Connery or before Connery?
No, Roger Moore was after Connery, and then it
he wasn't. It was
Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton.
Oh, he's the one who played
Roger Moore,
only a few.
Timothy Dalton only did 2 movies.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
All right, Brian, let's get to it. Let's get to your number 1 choice for James Bond.
Go ahead. Put the image up.
No, you got to say it for our audio listeners.
Oh, okay. For the audio listeners, Jake's smirking because he stole mine. That's why he's laughing and
I didn't
wanted
steal it. He was my number 1 choice.
Yeah. Okay.
Was he your number 1 choice, Brian?
Yes, Richard Madden was my number 1 choice as well.
Nice.
He's not bad on the eyes. He is just. I mean, Jake.
That looks like it's from a James Bond set. If you
I know.
The Bodyguard.
If you were like, "This is the new James Bond images," I'd be like, "I believe you."
I mean, Jake said all of my talking points. Bodyguard is pretty much dead on. Like it's dead on for a James Bond type feel. And he's just so good at it. He's really good at playing suave. And just, he would be someone I would be excited to go see. And yes, he does have, like, people know who he is, but people don't, like, he's not a
mainstream audiences have no idea.
Yeah.
If you said his name, they'd be like, "Who?"
Or they would say they would probably say, "Oh, the guy from Eternals," or Robert Stark from Game of Thrones. Like that's what they would say.
So, the Red Wedding. That's what they, that's all people know him from.
So, I mean, I think it would kind of be a smart play also because he can kind of like become that character if need be. I mean. Daniel Craig, for the most part, is James Bond. To be like, you don't immediately outside of Knives Out the last couple of years, like what else is an immediate thought for common movie watchers? So, like, I mean, you could do that same type of thing with Richard Madden. It's just kind of like almost build a career off of it. So, yeah,
I agree.
I'm sure you do.
I absolutely agree.
Literally agrees.
Literally agree. All right. Well, there are our number 1s. Let's see. Jacob, your gentleman's name was Tom Ellis.
Tom Ellis. Yep.
Number 1 for Tom Ellis. And then Brian and I both went with Richard Madden. Please let us know in the comments below what your number 1 pick would be. We'd love to hear from you guys. But we're going to go and move forward onto our runner-up. 1A, 1B, possibly. Just our backup situation. If our first didn't get picked, this is the next person up in line. So Jacob, why don't you reveal who is your number 2 pick for James Bond?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm looking for British actors, right? And I just watched a brand new movie called Knock at the Cabin. The movie was a little disappointing, but the best part of the movie is an actor named Ben Aldridge. And he plays one of the dads. If you've seen him in the trailer, he's like the taller dad. And he is incredible in this movie, acting wise. Also, something in they show flashbacks in the movie. And he's like, there's a reason why he's like training. He's boxing. And he goes and buys a gun and he's like training with the gun. And the whole time I was like, dude, this guy would make a great action star when they were showing these scenes. Like he has the looks. He was phenomenal in the movie. Like him and the daughter the best part of the whole entire movie. And Dave Bautista was great too. But this guy's completely unknown. I mean, he's been in a few things, and he's a British actor. He's been in a lot of like BBC stuff. I think, you know, actors know who he is, but general audiences don't know who he is. He's roughly, I think he's like 6'1". That's like typical size for Bond. And he's 37. So I think he'd fit more into like the Richard Madden way of playing a much younger Bond, and he can play him for 15 years. So I love, you know, discovering new actors and actresses for the first time. Like you see him in something once and you're like, they're great. And that's how I feel about this guy. So I wouldn't be mad if they cast him. I think he's on the rise. Again,
unfortunately, nothing to go off of with him.
No, I don't.
He looks the part. He looks the part, and you know, taking your word for it as far as those action scenes in the movie, and him being the best part of the movie. When a lot of people have been talking about Dave Bautista, that's obviously a good sign. So, yeah, I mean, look, if he looks the part, I'm all for it. I have nothing against it. So,
yeah, I have, again, like Jake said, no experience with him, but I mean, he looks like he could play the part. In that movie, is he one of the dads?
Yeah, he's one of the dads.
Give me a fluid James Bond. I'll take that.
And I think you would like this movie, Brian, a lot for multiple reasons.
It looks too scary.
It's actually not. And they cut away from the gore.
Oh, perfect.
They do. So I think you would like it. Yeah.
I like how Jacob said the movie isn't that good, but Brian, you'll like it.
No, I mean, it's good. It's just, I want it to be great.
You have horrible taste. You'll like the movie.
I want it to be great, and it wasn't. It's okay. But he was. That's the important part. Ben Aldridge, he's the man.
All right, let's go ahead and get to my number 2 here. My second choice, I struggled with this one. I had 3 people who were kind of like flipping back and forth. And I ended up going with one that I think might be a little bit of a not controversial pick, but one that you would not think is a typical choice for this. Many people may not recognize him or have familiarity with him. He is from the Haunting of the Hill House series, Haunting of Bly Manor, but he also played one of the best villains of the year 2020, and that is Mr. Oliver Jackson Cohen, who played the Invisible Man.
That is a good choice.
I think that he has the ability to kind of wiggle his way into a role that a lot of people wouldn't expect him to. He's very tall. I don't have his exact height, but he's very, very tall. He has a great build, and he has played some roles that really bring out great performances. We haven't seen the action side from him just yet, but I have no doubt in my mind that he can probably play a great action character, performer, star, whatever it may be. Again, and he's also British. So that kind of goes in line with what we're talking about here. I think he would be a killer James Bond, like a killer James Bond, maybe a little bit more of a darker James Bond, much more in line with what Daniel Craig has been over the last 15 years, that type of character. But I just think that he would be able to fit into that role very well. And going back to some of the people we've talked about today so far, a lot of people would not recognize him because mainstream audiences aren't watching stuff like The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor because it's very specific. They should be, but it's very specific and it's a little bit scary side, so there's less people watching it. And then The Invisible Man, he was only in the movie for like 15 minutes. Otherwise, he was invisible, so you didn't actually see his face. So many people would not recognize him. Maybe he's much more bigger on, across the pond over there in the UK, but I think it'd be great. I think it would be really, really cool to see him as a James Bond.
I love the choice and am not happy that I didn't think of it. And he's 6'3", by the way. I looked it up.
Yeah, even better. Like an intimidating and a very tall, intimidating Bond would be pretty cool to see. Much more in vein with Sean Connery, but obviously not like that type of Bond. Because Sean Connery was a little taller when he was a little younger. So, no, I think it'd be great. I wish I could say, oh, those action scenes in The Invisible Man, that was all him. But no, it wasn't, obviously, because it's invisible.
Yeah.
How do you know? He was invisible.
I mean, you're right. You are right. Yeah.
There are moments where he does some physical activities outside of the suit. And I believe like he was intense and he was intimidating in that movie. And they made us fear him, in that film for multiple reasons, but he would be a great choice. Like, I didn't even think of him. He wasn't even on my radar, but I love it. Like, see, and that's the thing. It's like people might view him negatively because he's a terrible person in that movie, but like they're actors, they're playing roles. So you can take him, put him in James Bond. He'd do great.
Jacob, have you seen the Hill House or Bly Manor stuff?
No, but so many people.
What?
You need to watch it.
Like,
it is so up your alley.
Different people that don't even know each other have told me you have to watch those shows.
Can I challenge you on the movie watching challenge to watch the TV
Jacob, the fact that I have seen them.
Keith and I used to do, like, we challenge each other to like the first episode or the first 2 episodes of a series.
Okay, so you did be watching challenge this past week. Can I do it right now? Can I challenge you to watch the first episode of The Haunting of the House?
I'll do it just for fun.
Okay,
just for fun. Yeah,
Jacob, the fact that I have seen these and you haven't, and these were like, how could we make this for Jacob Bartley? Let's do it this way.
That's like, what people say. Like, coworkers have told me for years that I need to watch it.
Jacob, it's Mike Flanagan who did Dr. Sleep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's all you need.
All 3 of his are incredible.
And this guy's in it, right?
Oliver Jackson is in it. He's one of the kids. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Cool. I'll check it out.
Cool. All right, Brian, let's get to it. Let's get to the number 2 pick for you, your final choice of today.
So I am basic because I went with the one that is currently being talked about as potentially the next James Bond. But honestly, he was someone that never crossed my mind, but after seeing and hearing the name and seeing him recently in some more stuff, I am actually kind of all on board for it, and that is Aaron Taylor Johnson. Nice. I do hesitate. I do sometimes kind of feel like he's the safe pick.
Really?
Almost.
I don't think he's a safe pick at all.
No.
I think he's a pick that is on the verge of like being a controversial pick.
Yeah, I think so too.
I guess. I just think like maybe in the like, I don't know. To me, it just seemed like it just is kind of just like, okay, I guess that makes sense a little bit.
I mean, I think, like, look, playing Kick-Ass and Quicksilver affect it in a negative way somehow. I don't agree with that, but that's how some people will see it.
I loved him in Bullet Train.
It's the reason why I said controversial is because he's not your typical clean cut. He's kind of like scruffy, longer hair, right? Like he has that little bit more of like a bad boy vibe, not a clean cut, straight edge James Bond type. But like Brian was saying, when the name came out, it took me like maybe, I don't know, like a day or 2. But afterwards I was like, I actually would not hate seeing him as the character.
Same.
Neither would I.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind.
I think it'd be a very cool direction to take the character.
And Bullet Train, Brian, before Bullet Train, I would have been very questionable. After Bullet Train,
yeah,
100%.
Hell yeah.
I loved him in Bullet Train. He was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's the name we keep hearing being thrown out. If it is, great. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna complain. Another one that can kind of like take it and make a career out of it, possibly. Like,
he's only 32, so
yeah. I mean, he's the name that's been revealed so far to have met with producers and the creators of James Bond, everyone who owns the rights. That doesn't mean that more people haven't been revealed. He's just the name that's out there right now. And we've seen this plenty of times before, of names popping up and then them never after that going forward with the role. But just going off of everything we've heard over the past couple months, it's right now Aaron Taylor Johnson is quote unquote the front runner to play the next James Bond. So
yeah,
wow.
Which again, don't hate it.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, does anybody have any honorable mentions that they would like to throw out there? Go ahead, Brian.
I have one, but go ahead, Brian.
I have another one. I kind of went back and forth between Aaron Taylor Johnson and this guy. And for me, that was Ben Barnes.
Nice.
If you don't know,
Ben Barnes is interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting.
He was Prince Caspian and why am I drawing a blank? Jigsaw in Punisher. And yeah, I think he would be a fun, like, slick, cool.
He's very good. We don't see enough of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. So,
and he can clearly do
like
a physical role. So,
oh yeah,
he was good in Punisher.
Yes,
he was great in Punisher.
Jacob,
I have one that people might laugh at first, but I think he would be fantastic, and that's Jamie Dornan. He's typecast from the 50 Shades movies, but if you've seen him in Belfast, he's an amazing actor, and he's been diversifying his roles. He's been doing a bunch of different stuff, a lot of indie stuff. He's a great actor, and that's all I care about. And he's British, 40 years old, 5'11". Think he'd do great.
He was on a lot of the lists that I looked on.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I'd prefer my other two guys, but totally wouldn't mind it.
Out of the names that we have, he and Richard Madden were the ones that were kind of constant.
Oh, awesome.
On a lot of the list, yeah. My honorable choices, I actually went not super young, but I went relatively young for the next one. Which is why I kind of kept him off because I didn't want the whole Tom Holland effect.
Yeah, I don't want a 25-year-old Bond. Just
but I went with Harris Dickinson, and if you don't know the name, he plays Ralph Fiennes' son in The King's Man, and he is also in Where the Crawdads Sing. He is the gentleman in Where the Crawdads Sing. He's a very physically imposing young kid. He is 25, so it'd be very young.
If they're going young, he'd be a great choice.
But he would be a really good choice because again, he's kind of on the unknown side, and so far he's shown that he can do a lot of physicality, and be a little imposing on screen. So I think Harris Dickinson would be a great choice. I still am so, spoiler for The King's Man, but I am so pissed off at the way that his character was handled in that movie. Because I thought his character would have gone in a really cool direction if they decided to make a few changes. But that movie is forgettable. So yeah,
still haven't seen it, but
don't watch it.
Hey, if they're going young, that'd be a good choice.
I didn't mind it.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that is our casting table, our first casting table of February. We cast James Bond. Let's quickly run over our choices. Jacob, I'll just go around the horn. I'll start with you. Who are your two top picks for playing James Bond?
Yes, so my number one choice would be Tom Ellis from Lucifer. And then my second choice would be Ben Aldridge. He's starring in Knock at the Cabin right now.
All right. And Brian?
I have Richard Madden as number one. And I have Aaron Taylor Johnson is number two. Sorry, I almost said Ben Barnes, and I was like, no, that's not right.
And for me, my number one is Richard Madden, and my number two is Oliver Jackson Cohen. Well, everyone who's been watching, thank you guys so much for joining us and supporting the casting table. We really, really love the show, and your views obviously help that. Again, you can also listen to this episode on audio platforms all over the place, wherever you find your podcasts. And of course, let us know which actors, you would like to see play this character. There's obviously a million choices out there for James Bond and the type of James Bond that you want. We would love to hear from you guys. Who do you want to see play James Bond next? So for Jacob, Brian, and myself, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys next time.